Well, welcome to Conservation and Preservation Career Pathway Spotlight. My name is Keisha Hall Dilligard. I work as a business relation consultant with the Business Network Division. And I just want to say thank you for joining us. It took a group, a team of people to put this presentation together. And I would like to have my colleagues who are joining me to come on and introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Nasha Ely. I'm also a business relations consultant. I'm a woman with green camouflage glasses. My hair is twisted and off to the left, and I have on a top that has black, white, and yellow in it today. Thank you for joining us.
Craig Saunders, business relations consultant up in Northern Michigan District. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. So before we get started, we just want to do some housekeeping. Craig, can you bring up the housekeeping slide?
It is up.
Oh, why am I not seeing that? Okay, well, while we work through some technical difficulties on my side, I will get started here anyway. Please, we're going to, please feel free to ask any questions throughout the event through the Q&A section of the Zoom interface. Time is reserved during this event at the end to answer any questions that you may have. We also have closed captioning, which is available by selecting the CC closed caption button and then show titles on your screen. That is something that you can do on your end. If during the event you are having some technical difficulties and you need assistance, you can hit the Zoom Help Center button, which that will allow you to get assistance. Next slide, please. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. So our learning objectives is to learn about National Wildlife Day. We're also going to hear from some of our Michigan agencies and organizations who protect and preserve our Michigan waters, forests, lands, and animals. Also, we're going to talk about different career pathways which protect endangered animals and conservation. We also will share some labor market information regarding different occupations within the preservation and conservation field. And we want to leave you with some resources to connect with volunteers and career opportunities. I also want to take the time to say that one of our panelists was not able to be here today from the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. So I will be doing my best to present some information from them. I also want to say thank you to our interpreters who are available for this event also. And I also want to say a special shout out to Tyler for all the assistance that he always gives when we present. Thank you, Tyler. Next slide, please. So why are we focusing on conservation and preservation career pathways? So while most of us will be celebrating Labor Day, September 4th is also reserved for National Wildlife Day. Now, National Wildlife Day was founded in 2025 to bring awareness of endangered animals nationally as well as globally, and to acknowledge organizations that help preserve the planet's animals and also the lands, and also to educate people. So my colleagues and I felt it would be a great opportunity to bring attention to this day and also bring attention to the careers in conservation and preservation, to also bring awareness to National Wildlife Day. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So why is National Wildlife Day conservation preservation important to Michigan? Well, in Michigan, we have approximately 11,000 inlands, and lakes. We have 36,000 miles of rivers and streams. So perhaps you fish, and this is something that you like doing. Have you had the opportunity to also visit any of the 4.6 million acres of wildlife? Perhaps you've gone to the zoo. Perhaps you like to camp. It is said that more than 60% of Michiganders are actively involved in activities related to wildlife. That is so cool to me. Therefore, this date was adopted in Michigan to promote awareness of the outdoor activities and an appreciation of Michigan's wildlife. Next slide, please. So, no matter where you live, there is an opportunity to enjoy Michigan's rich wildlife. We have the Great Lakes, we have the rivers, we have the animals. Now, I would like to do a little shift and talk about a few occupations which relate to conservation and preservation. So according to the US, next slide if you're not there, sorry. According to the US Bureau of Labor Market Statistics, the overall employment of conservation and forest workers is projected to grow 5% between now and 2031. Stay with me. I know that's a low percentage, but stay with me. I hope by the end of this event, we present to you creative and alternative ways to assist individuals who are interested in working in conservation and preservation, opportunities to get connected to those opportunities. So keep in mind also, the 5% that I just talked about is for the United States. Let's look at projected growth for Michigan. I think you will be a little surprised, at least I was, about what I'm about to tell you. According to the Environment, Conservation, and Wildlife Statistics, animal caretakers in Michigan are expected to grow 11% among 11%. And the 11% growth is going to be with biological technicians. Now, I want to spend a little time talking about biological technicians. So perhaps you are a person who like animals, you like water, and you like nature from a distance. Now, what I mean by that is that you understand the beauty and the importance of animals, the importance of conserving the water in nature, but you really do not like being around the area. Maybe have allergies, or maybe you just don't like being close to animals. You can still contribute to conservation and preservation as a biological technician. Michigan is expected to have a 10% increase, 11% increase, in this occupation. Biological technician assistants, they are considered medical scientists. They set up and operate and maintain laboratory instruments and equipment. They monitor experiments, they collect data and samples, they make observations, they calculate and record results. Many analyze organic substances such as blood, food, and drugs. So this could be a great opportunity for someone to help us understand how to conserve our water, our animals, from a scientific background. For those who are interested in working directly in the field, think about being an animal caretaker, working in the forestry, maybe even being a photographer, maybe even hunting and fishing. Now, I have a question for you. Which among these occupations that I just mentioned, caretaker, animal caretaker, forester, photography, hunting, and fishing, do you believe that brings the most money to Michigan? Now I'll give you a few minutes to think about that. Which one of these occupations do you believe bring the most money to Michigan? So here we go. Next slide, please. So according to the Bureau of Labor Market Statistics, and also through the Michigan United clubs, the annual state economic impact by Michigan is 700,000 hunters and 1 million anglers, fishers. And then there is 8.9 billion from hunting and 2.3 billion from fishing streams. That goes from buying gear to the clothing, to booking hotels, buying meals, and anything that's related to that. That means that this occupation is growing rapidly in the next several years, fishing and hunting. Now, I'm not quite sure how many fishers and hunters that I have out there who really enjoy doing that, but perhaps you can turn it into a career as well. There is a large number of job openings in terms of in this emerging career. There are a lot of small businesses that generate revenue as a result to hunting and fishing. Let's talk about this a little more. Next slide, please. So according to the United Conservation and Clubs, this report is going to show that for every $1 million spent on hunting and fishing related purchases in Michigan, there are 19.61 jobs that are created for state residents. That's wonderful. And Michigan is the top for this number, followed by, and I'm not going to look at everything here, but let's look at our neighboring states. Ohio, jobs are created, 19.58% of jobs are created in Ohio. Let's look at Wisconsin, right across the water, 15.01. And then Illinois, 15.03. Michigan, we are 19.61. We're at the top here. So to me, we need to look at this and figure out ways to get more people into working into this field. I want to share some more statistics with you before we turn it over to our guest. Next slide, please. So there are several people joining us across the state of Michigan today. So we thought it would be important to share how much revenue is generated in your area. If you see here, take time to review the chart and see how much revenue is generated in your region. Now, I know that there's a lot of information on this slide, but according to the United Conservation and Clubs, every region feels the effect of hunting and fishing. So now I want to turn it over to Nasha to introduce our next panelist. Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. Some of you may remember Mariah joined us previously when we were all at home still to talk about working from home. And now she is here to talk about her role in opportunities and conservation and preservation efforts at Potter Park Zoo. Thank you. And thank you, Mariah, for joining us.
Thank you, Nasha. I appreciate the introduction. And yes, my name is Mariah Martinez. I am the Equity and Engagement Program Manager at Potter Park Zoo. My contact information is on the slide. If you'd like to contact me, it is mmartinez@ingham.org, or you can call me at 517-342-2751. So I'm going to cover a lot of different things today: conservation, preservation, and jobs. Oh, next slide. I forgot I'm not doing the slides. Sorry. So about Potter Park Zoo, just quickly, our mission is inspiring conservation of animals in the natural world. We are a 20-acre zoo within an 80-acre park, so we are a smaller zoo. We do have 160 species of animals with over 350 animal residents, including rhinos, lions, penguins. We're hoping to get some new animals pretty soon, but we do a lot of work with conservation. So I'm going to head into that with the next slide. All right. So for conservation, I Don't plan on reading through all of them for the sake of time, but we do contribute funds to programs like the Snow Leopard Trust, International Rhino Foundation, Red Panda Network, and the Vaquita Safe program. So if you didn't know, there's only 10 vaquitas left remaining in Mexico, in the waters near Mexico. They are the rarest marine mammal. And there could be more, but they're a very shy animal. So it's really hard to know how many exactly, but they're thinking there's only 10 left. And so what we do is we do raise funds here at the zoo to give the money to these funds to hopefully help with the conservation of them. These are either endangered or critically endangered. And just quickly, endangered is a word used to describe a plant and animal species that are at serious risk of extinction. Critically endangered are animals facing extremely high risk of extinction in the wild, which would be the vaquita. Only having 10 left is a very scary number. All right, next slide. Other conservation efforts, we release toads, the Puerto Rican crested toad. We breed them on site once a year and then release them. We don't, I guess, ourselves release. We send them to Puerto Rico and they go through a process where they're watched, they're hatched, they have the tadpoles, and then they're released. What happened is they're endangered by their habitat. There's another type of toad that is taking over, and they're also being, ate by these. They're being ate by another toad. It's a competition between the two, and so we have been helping by sending over 19,000 Puerto Rican crested tadpoles since 2009. We just sent 2,000 in 2023. Our keepers do all of this work. We have a nice setup. They breed them. It is a lot of work, very specific things to do. But we work with the United States Fisheries and Wildlife as well as the DNR. Next slide. Field conservation efforts. If you have any questions, I do have information at the end to go further. But this is a list of the different conservation efforts. I'll name off a few. We did a Moose Watch expedition. We have worked with the Eastern Massasauga rattlesnake field research. So that is an endangered rattlesnake here in Michigan. It is our only venomous snake in Michigan. Like to mention that. Any other snake is not. So don't be too frightened. Quarters for conservation. If you visit the zoo, you can put quarters in different animal boxes, and then we match the highest animal that reaches the money. And then we have the USGS Water Watch. So we're actually watching the river here at Potter Park Zoo to make sure that it is elevated properly, make sure there's enough water, and we do report that. But we've worked with, lastly, the Peregrine falcon chicks as well. So that program removes abandoned eggs from the wild in hopes of salvaging the chicks. And our animal programs manager works with that. So in different ways, our keepers, our education staff, our head animal people all do these different conservation efforts. Next slide. Preservation on site. What are we doing at the zoo? So we have our Red Cedar River cleanup, where we are cleaning up a ton of plastic from the Red Cedar River. We just did our first cleanup this year. We have a pollinator garden here. It is beautiful. And we are creating more green space with our new asphalt replacement project that's happening right now. We do tree planting. We have tons of trees here and we're planting tons more. We also use this as an opportunity for people to buy a tree in memory of someone. So I myself have a tree here in memory of someone, and it's also helping the zoo. We pull invasive species like garlic mustard, bird collision prevention. We have a lot of glass here, a lot of different ways to look at the animals. So we put stickers on them to make sure that the birds see that so they do not collide with the glass. Paper straws. So we do sell paper straws. We do not have plastic straws on site. The paper straw funds go towards conservation. We do not use most herbicides or pesticides. There's a few cases that we might have to, but for the most part, we have eliminated use of them. Usually poison ivy is the big one. If we have to get rid of that, we will have to use something. And nature play, what a great way to promote nature by having an entire place to promote where you can play, interactive signage, play in the dirt. It's exciting to have that here, and we do have that on grounds. All right, the next slide is a very large list of different preservation efforts. A few are, we have energy efficient appliances. We compost all of our leaves and branches. We reuse empty grain bags for animal trash. Recycle our metal waste. We even have rain barrels here with education signage. So we do collect the rain just to kind of show people how you can do that. We have water bottle filling stations. So we do promote to refill your water bottles. And last but not least, I'm trying to think of one. Oh, instead of our paper maps, we have QR codes. So we're not printing thousands and thousands of maps every year, because that can be a lot on the environment as well as a waste if we need to change them. So we've moved away. We do have paper copies available if needed by request. All right, next slide. All right, we have some awesome current employment opportunities that I wanted to mention. So the three here that you can apply for today are seasonal animal care worker, seasonal temporary customer service attendant, and a vet tech position that is full-time. The two positions that are seasonal are basically just your basic high school diploma or equivalent. You do need to have a few different tests because you are working around animals, so a TB test is needed. The vet tech position does require an associate's degree in vet tech. That is important because there's a lot you have to learn to be a vet tech, but we are hiring a temporary. So if you're looking for a temporary vet tech position or a full-time, these jobs go between the animal care worker jobs are $13 an hour, and our vet tech position is $48,000 a year. We have two other positions that opened up recently, a maintenance position that is temporary. So that position will not last longer than 6 months. But we have a keeper position. If you're going to apply, I think today would be the last day to do so. Or if you know anybody, it's a very high wanted job. A lot of people want this job, the keeper positions. And right now I think it's starting at around $40,000 a year, but there's different ways to move up in the position. So we do have those available. If you go to the Ingham County Jobs Opportunities website, you can find them. And again, you don't need a ton of background. The keeper position and the full-time vet tech position, you would need some kind of experience and possibly a degree. All right, next. If you have any questions at the end about those jobs, please let me know. All right, other employment opportunities at Potter Park Zoo. So these may not be available right now, but these are positions to working at a zoo. And it's important to know that any position at a zoo has different impact in conservation and preservation. Every single position. Without our maintenance workers, we wouldn't have the great landscape. We wouldn't have the amazing habitats for our animals. They are primarily building them. They might also work on grounds with trash and cleanup, but a lot of the times a full-time maintenance person is putting together our exhibits, which is extremely important, as well as making money for the zoo. So the gift shop, the Savannah Grill, all those positions. So you could be a director at a zoo. There's animal care specialists. There is a veterinarian job, not available right now, but all zoos need veterinarians. We have communications. If you are interested in graphic arts, if you're interested in social media, great job. Education team, horticulture, again, landscaping, special events. If you love running special events, if you like putting on parties and raising money, there you go, great job. Fund development, writing grants, receiving money. We are trying to build a hospital, so we had to do a lot of raising of funds for that. And then customer service. 100%, this job could not be done. The zoo would not be possible without our customer service, without those that are working at the different Dippin' Dots and the Savannah Grill and the food service. And if you have any questions about those, let me know. Next slide, please. All right, so our internship opportunities, if you're just looking to get experience before you apply for a job, these are great. As of right now, there is 2 unpaid internships, animal care. They are all year round. It is harder to get an internship in the summer because of the amount of requests, but we do take fall and spring. And we can give college credit if you're looking for college credit. Education is now a paid internship. So we do have opportunities to be a conservation education intern, and they provide a practical learning experience and knowledge of informal conservation education in a zoological setting. So you're being paid to come up with new materials, to work out in the zoo at our conservation stations. And then we have internships during the summer, our zoo camp. So it's a full-time and there's partially paid jobs, and the interns will receive training and assist teachers during our Zoocami summer camp. But remember, if you like to teach summer camp next summer, we'll be hiring again for full-time teachers. There is also my internship, the community engagement and inclusion intern. So you work directly with me. I had a title change, as you can see, and we strengthen our diversity strategies initiatives. I work with a special needs group. We have a monthly program with that. We also provide free zoo passes to the community, and you will also work with that. So there's some really great opportunities. There's other internships available on our website as well, but I wanted to mention the one that is paid and the 2 that are unpaid, but have really great experience in conservation. Next slide. Employment challenges. So what challenges could come up with working at, I think, anywhere, but specifically at the zoo? Full-time positions are less often available than seasonal and part-time positions. You will always see some seasonal and part-time positions. Full-time are hard to come by. Usually what a lot of people do, they'll get a seasonal job here or a part-time so that they can apply for a full-time and be already in the system. We already know their work ethic. That helps a lot. We've had a keeper that was once working in public safety, and then a seasonal animal care working in the goat yard, and now they're a full-time keeper. So that experience really helps them. Specific job requirements. There is a lot of lifting and working in extreme temperatures. Our keepers alone, they don't get days off when it snows or if it's 90-degree weather. They have to be out there for the animals. So if you want a position like that, you have to be able to work in those conditions, because again, the animals come first and their safety comes first. So we do have that. There is the exerting more than 50 pounds. Now, some of these positions, like mine, I barely exert 50 pounds. So depending on the position will depend on the requirements. Transportation, we have about a 2-mile walk from the road to the zoo if you have to take the bus. And a lot of our employees do take the bus. So there is from there to admissions that is hard to get to. But other than that, transportation is not a large problem. You do have the bus system come by the zoo. They're just not stopping at the zoo. And accommodations. So although Potter Park Zoo will make reasonable accommodations for disabilities if requested in advance, some jobs cannot make certain accommodations based on the safety of the employee, guests, and animals. The job primarily that has that is the keeper position, because you're working with large animals, exotic animals, and maybe public safety. The public safety workers are responsible for the safety of the zoo. But we are always working with people. We do make accommodations often for individuals that need them. We have an HR department through Ingham County that will take your requests. We will buy special equipment if needed, and we do handle anything ADA. All right, our next and last slide. Other opportunities. Maybe this is all a lot and you don't want a career here, but you just want to support the zoo. Volunteer. If you're 18 or older, you can volunteer. Our volunteers do a lot of education. They're really our conservation champions all the time. So they have conservation stations in the zoo where they present pelts and artifacts. They do guest services support, gardening, and special events. Our special events are mostly done by volunteers who help the special events coordinator. We also have our Zoom Teen Volunteer Program. If you know anyone between ages 14 and 18, they can apply for this every year, usually in February. Volunteer opportunity, which allows young people the chance to be part of the daily animal care operations at the zoo. And it's an amazing program. They help with summer camp. They as well do conservation stations, and they can also shadow keepers at a certain point in time. So if they want to have a little experience while they're still in high school, you can do that as well. I know I went through a lot, so if you have any questions, I have answers. I believe there is a Q&A here. Oh, all right, let me just read them.
I can read them.
Okay,
You
thank you,
answered a
Nasha.
couple already. Where the positions were located. The most recent was the follow-up on a question about how difficult it is to obtain positions at Potter Park and other zoos. And the follow-up to that was, why is this difficult to get into zoos, specifically working with animals?
Yeah, so I'll touch on the why is it difficult to get positions at zoos working with animals. A lot of the times zoos don't just have farmyard animals. We do have them, but those animals may need less skill, less experience. But there is a lot that goes into working with exotic and large animals like lions, tigers, bears. And we don't have bears, but I was going through the list. And so I think you have to remember that you only see some things, but there is, the closing up, the locking up, the talking on the radio, the lifting, the amount of labor our keepers do. So I don't think it's really difficult. It's difficult because we only have so many positions. There's only 14 keepers. And if all 14 keepers stay for 10 plus years, we don't have a position open. I think that's where the difficulty comes in, is that there's not high turnover.
Okay.
Is any experience needed for someone who wants to apply for the zookeeper position, or is this a trained position? Experience is needed. If you have years of experience at a zoo and you don't have a degree, that does happen. We love seeing experience with, whether it's at other zoos. A bachelor's degree in zoology is a plus. It is looked at as an extra training that you've had the education of the animals. It's not required to have a degree anymore here at Potter Park, at least. Some zoos do require a bachelor's degree in zoology, but those that have a lot of experience does help. Here at Potter Park, if you have AZA accredited zoo experience, associations of zoos and aquariums, that helps as well, because we know that you're being trained with the same values that we follow. I hope that answers it. Again, not all zoos require a degree. Some require just a lot of experience, which I know how to get experience. Well, one, like I said, internships, seasonal positions in animal care, those don't require anything. So you could be working with keepers in a seasonal position, and you're maybe doing things like cutting up food, cleaning up, but I promise you that's what keepers do. They shovel a lot, they clean up a lot, and they cut up a lot of veggies. So yes, there are parts where we train animals and such, but overall they come in every day and do the same thing: clean, clean, clean. And then Nasha, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of like a piggyback. I put this one in there. Discuss the benefits of participating in an internship or externship. And labor market information shows getting into the area is difficult. Can an internship or externship be helpful when employment is not available? And I think you just answered that.
Yeah, so I know not just from our zoo, but from other zoos, it helps to get in the door. Again, getting into that zoo that maybe you're interested in, an internship will do that for you. We've had multiple interns last summer were brought into job positions during summer camp this summer. We knew what their work ethic was. We knew that they had a great experience. We knew what to expect from them. That does help. Like I said before, having a position in any position here, even gift shop, would help, because you're getting to experience that zoo. You know what's expected of you. We know you, and we can also go off of that. But for the most part, internships and externships are great. They are really great. I just know that it's hard to be unpaid. So I know that we're working on my internship, having some sort of stipend. It is 2023. It is time to pay interns. So I'm very happy education has found the money to do that. Even if it's not a full-time pay, it at least gives you something. And again, experience is what most zoos are going to look for. I wish they were a little bit more open to training, but I know how important it is, especially for zookeeper jobs. You have to be somewhat prepared, and internships will prepare you, as well as seasonal positions will help you get there.
All right, there's no more questions in the Q&A right now, but I'm going to ask a question, and if people have questions that you want to ask specific about Potter Park Zoo, please take the time to put that in the Q&A now. So my question is, even though internships, externships, working at other parts and areas of the zoo might be helpful, there still is no guarantee that someone would complete an internship and then be able to move into a position, correct?
Correct, yes, because a position has to be open.
Okay.
So your chances, like, that's another part. Right now, we have a keeper position. It's been open for about a week. It's going to close soon because the applications are so high. And it's very rare, though, to have those positions open. So an intern that just happened to be here for the summer could have possibly applied for that zookeeper position and possibly get it. But does it always happen like that? No, it's the turnover, which I think is a nice thing to listen to, is turnover rate is not really high in zoos. Maybe even at our zoo, it's not high. So that means we have a good work environment, but that doesn't allow new people to come in and get those positions.
And then does the Potter Park Zoo partner with organizations or maybe even other zoos to assist or like funnel your candidates to other places when positions aren't available there?
I'm not sure if, I know, when we had one person work here and there wasn't a keeper position available, we do make sure to help them in a way of like a great recommendation. We can call the other zoo. We have had others that work here go to other zoos and, have those, and that helps too, though. Think about it. If you work here seasonally, even if it's not a full-time position, you now have managers and directors that can say to another zoo, yes, this person has a great work ethic. But if you don't have any of that experience, then there's no one to say that. There's no one to say, hey, we've watched them work. We've seen that they can come in every day and do this job. We do have that. We work with job placement. So we work with Peckham actually quite a bit. And our director leads that the most. And she has people come in, work on different projects in the zoo to just promote getting that work experience through places like Peckham. I try, if someone reaches out to me, to give them a list of places to go if we're not hiring, or at least ideas. So feel free to reach out if you just need someone to get you in the right direction. Maybe you have a place that you want to work with just reptiles. I can maybe help you with that. The Association of Zoos and Aquariums website, if you are willing to move around the country, that is the place to look for a job. There's jobs listed all the time, and they're all the different positions. So I would definitely highly recommend that.
That was going to be the next thing that was asked. Like, if you go into this field, specifically zoology, you kind of need to be open to maybe not staying in the state that you studied in or you live in, because there could be opportunities in other places, maybe not at a zoo in your state.
I would, if you're going to get a degree in this, you should be willing to move. If you don't have to move, that's fantastic. It's great, but at least have it in your head that you are willing to make the move, maybe even for just a few years, right? You don't have to move for 40 years, but maybe the first 5 to get experience, because there are some zoos that are going to be more willing or have jobs open. Now, I went and got a zoology degree at Michigan State University. So I could have applied to be a zookeeper. I decided to go a different route. And I work now in equity and engagement, as well as talking about conservation. So did someone else I went to Michigan State University with. They are now the fund development person. So maybe being open to different positions, realizing the education department is out there giving the conservation messaging, talking with the families, and maybe sometimes handling animals. There are animal ambassadors at some zoos that you can hold, you can present, you can teach. So just being open to those different positions is also very helpful. That does not mean you can't not apply to be a zookeeper, but it's an opportunity. And things like vet tech, veterinarians and directors, those are going to be higher level that you will have to have experience and probably higher education to receive.
And you just, the fact that you said, like those transferable skills of, you maybe got that degree in zoology, but you aren't working as a zookeeper, but still in the environment and doing something like education or like you said, the ambassador. I don't think sometimes we think of things like that because it's, I want to work with animals. You might not be able to hold one every day, but you're still there. So you have
Yes.
the opportunity to still be there. So you mentioned zoology. Are there other degrees that would be like, okay, if you want to work in a zoo, these are some degrees you consider, or does that even matter?
I would definitely, if you can get a degree and you can take that time to do that, I would do it because a lot of zoos are still requiring it. Or they're looking at it as a, you know, an experience that you have. So there is zoology, there's animal sciences, there is wildlife. So like Central Michigan University, I believe, has a wildlife degree that I was looking at one point. It doesn't have to specifically be Michigan State University and zoology. There are many different degrees out there in the animal world, which means, again, maybe you go work for the Department of Natural Resources and you're out in the actual forest, in the woods, taking care of those animals and tracking them, like our moose here in Michigan and our elk. Those are all tracked. Someone has to do it. So those are great jobs and positions. They don't always require degrees. I know many people that are working for the DNR that have like public safety degrees, parks degrees, and things like that. So those things could help you get a future job as well as just working in the environment world.
Alrighty. And specifically, thank you for Potter Park. You know, we talked about the pay of a couple positions that are available, but what does it look like as far as like benefits, like insurance, retirements, time off, and things like that?
So all the positions I talked about are part of the Ingham County. Like I said, you can go to the Ingham County website to apply for them, which means we do have to go through the county process. The zoo is not deciding how the application is. They're putting the information there, they're putting the amounts, but the process is done through the county. We do interview, but there is benefits. If you're a full-time employee, there is not many benefits to a seasonal position or a part-time position. There might be some sick days and time off days, but there isn't what you would get for full-time. Full-time, there is benefits for PTO, sick days, there's health insurance that covers pretty much all of the things that you should get with a full-time position. The pay for like zookeeping is pretty good here at Potter Park Zoo compared to some zoos. I do know that. And again, if you look at the job description, you'll see that there's different experience levels. And as you work here, there's ways to level up, there's ways to advance, which I think is another reason we don't have high turnover, because you're not just at one position with one set of money, you can actually earn more. But yeah, we have benefits, we have health insurance, we have coverage, we have a great program here. The county stays up to date with it. They send out multiple notices. I do believe there is retirement with the society that I work for. We're a nonprofit. We get retirement, PTO, really good salaries in the sense of we're always, you know, getting looked at an overview of what we're getting paid. I hope that answers it, but
Yes,
it actually lays it all out too, I think, on the applications, which should be helpful.
Yeah, that was great information. And I will say this, every zoo is going to be set up a little different. Like for Potter Park Zoo, they are through Ingham County, so that's how you apply. So that's essentially the employer, even though you work for Potter Park Zoo.
Yeah.
If you're in Southeast Michigan, Detroit Zoo is under the Detroit Zoological Society. You know, every zoo might be set up different. So just something to think about if you are looking at various positions, and the same with their volunteer and internship opportunities. So that is the other thing just to remember. Everything, this is just what they're doing at Potter Park, but I'm pretty sure every other zoo has some type of volunteer opportunity program or those other like the seasonal work or the like retail concessions type jobs as a way to get your foot in the door. So I have one last thing I want you to talk about, Mariah, and then we can move on to the next person. You mentioned it briefly, but because we are an organization that works with individuals with disabilities, can you speak a little to your your programming for individuals with disabilities? And, is that just for youth, for adults, or for anyone?
Yes, so we do have a Falconers program. It does not have to do with falcons. So the birds, everyone thinks it does, but it doesn't. And it is every month. And it is for all ages, so with any disability. It started for those with autism, but then we moved to any developmental disability, anyone that felt like they needed a safe space at the zoo that was really not during regular zoo hours or less busy. This month, we did not have one because we are replacing the asphalt, but we should have one in September, October, November. We have a special Wonderland of Lights in December, so you don't have to come during the busy times. You can come during the sensory friendly hours, as well as a boo at the zoo that is sensory friendly. And those dates will be on the website on our potterparkzoo.org/falconers. And you can find the next one coming up in the next couple of weeks and moving forward. But we do sensory bags. We make certain accommodations to the food, dairy-free, gluten-free, and it's open to everyone and the families for free. I forget to mention the free part. It is completely free for the grandparents if you want to bring them, mom and dad, the guardians, and the participants themselves, which are age ranges from baby to, I think our oldest participant is in their 60s. So just come, if you're coming for a sensory-friendly time, that is the great time to come.
Thank you so much, Mariah. You gave us a lot of information. If you have anything you want to share as a resource, we can always get that out to people. And we, again, appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to give us this. So, we can help our customers possibly work in this field and get as much information as possible to have informed choice.
Yes, please, if you want to just email me and I can get you to the right person, I can also do that. So we do have a main number. You can do zoocontact@ingham.org, but you can do mmartinez@ingham.org. I will take your email and I will find you the right person.
All right, thank you so much. And if we
Thank
have any
you.
other questions specific to Potter Park, remember to put those in the Q&A and we can do that at the end. And I'm going to turn it over to Craig, who's going to move on to our next panelist.
Thank you very much, Mariah, and thank you, Nasha. Next, I want to introduce quickly Charlie Loper and Joyce Reardon from the Ottawa National Forest. We've partnered together quite often to share some of the opportunities from Ottawa National Forest up in the Upper Peninsula. And I want to welcome them here today. If you could start off just by telling us a little bit about yourselves and your position, and then we'll move into your slides. Thanks again for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having us and happy Monday, everybody. I'm Charlie Loper. I'm the Business and Public Operations Officer. Joyce, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Joyce Reardon. I am the Administrative Operations Specialist. I've been with the Forest Service 23 years and in a variety of positions from budget, front desk, executive assistant, and now here is the Administrative Operations Specialist, which seems like these days most of my efforts are in the hiring realm. So,
thanks, Joyce. I've been with the Forest Service for about 6 months, so Joyce is going to be answered a lot of questions. So thank you, Joyce, for joining. Before that, I worked in local government. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Forest Service is this really large entity that covers all 50 states. And the mission statement is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the nation's forests and grasslands to meet the needs of present and future generations. So you can see a little bit that there's like this dynamic in the Forest Service of, protecting the land, but also getting productivity out of the land and helping the current generations and the present and the past generations and the future generations. And there's just so much in stake. And I'll talk a little bit about the job opportunities that are involved with this, but the Forest Service is a really diverse place. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are all of our national forests. So there's 193 million acres across the country, which is about the size of Texas, which is amazing to me. And in Michigan in particular, there are 3 different forest services. We're with the Ottawa National Forest, so we're in the Western Upper Peninsula. But there's, like I said, there's 2 other national forests as well. There's also 20 grasslands across the country. And then there's a bunch of research stations. So a lot of the Forest Service is dedicated to researching what our impacts on the land are, like how, if we log certain ways, how does that impact the soil and the future generations of trees? And also, how can we use some of these timber products more effectively? Like if there's a certain waste product, what can we do with it? And so there's just so many unique opportunities of the Forest Service. Next slide, please. So we have a bunch of values of the Forest Service that I wanted to touch base with you on. So service to the American people, to each other, to the planet, interdependence. Everything is just so connected with each other. People and nature are connected, communities, colleagues, the past, present, future. How like when we do a timber sale, how it impacts the wildlife and how it impacts the soils and how we can work to maximize the productivity for deer and for birds and, you know, just all those different things. It's all interdependent on each other. And conservation. How do we protect what we need to protect? What's really important to the different communities that we work with? Where do we need to restore things? And just how do we make really good management decisions for everyone, not just people, but the plants and the soil as well. Diversity is another key component. So diversity of people and cultures, and just making sure that we listen to everybody and get different perspectives and experiences in ecosystems. And then obviously safety. If we really want everyone to go home safe at the end of the day, that is key to the Forest Service. Next slide, please. So I've talked about all these different roles to some extent, but it's amazing just how many people help make the Forest Service function. So Joyce and I are both in administration, and we probably spend 90 to 95% of our time in the office. But there are other people who go out into the field 90 to 95% of their days. So we have timber markers who go out and mark for timber sales, and people who help oversee the contracts with them. We have customer service representatives who greet visitors and help explain how to do things, like what fun activities there are. We have recreation staff who help, you know, keep campgrounds up to date. We have wilderness people who go out into our wilderness areas and help maintain those areas and teach people how to be good stewards of the land. We have conservation educators who work with school children to teach them how to manage the land and that sort of thing. We have wildlife people and soil people and heritage people who help with protecting tribally significant resources and other significant resources. Like we have research scientists. There's just so many different positions. Like almost any type of degree you could get could be used at the Forest Service. Like we need accountants, we need IT people, you know, and all of these people from all these different backgrounds help protect our environment. Next slide, please. So how do you go about getting a job at the Forest Service? There's several different ways to get into it. These are called different pathways to get in. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the competitive ways to get in. And I'm also going to mention on some of the non-competitive ways as well. So some of the competitive ways are through internship programs. So these are typically for people who are in high school or college, and maybe they on their summer break are looking to intern with the Forest Service. So we have those types of positions. We also have opportunities for recent graduates. These are people who've graduated within the last 2 years or within the next 9 months with a degree. There's opportunities for them to apply for positions, and then also for presidential management fellowships. These are people with advanced degrees. Next slide, please. Okay, so interns. There's a couple different types of interns that you can do. There's the Forest Service intern not to exceed. So if you go onto USA Jobs and you create an account and you're looking through and you see intern not to exceed, what the heck does that mean? So intern not to exceed are for people who it's just a temporary internship. So this might be, you know, maybe they're a junior in college and they want to spend their summer with the Forest Service, but then they have to go back to school. So they're going to do an internship not to exceed. They can go up to a year long, but they're typically, you know, shorter than that and often just summer positions. Next slide. And then there is also the intern indefinite. So these are for people who they have finished their degree and they are coming to the Forest Service and they're going to work with us for at least 640 hours. At the 640 hours place, they get a certificate that they can use to get a full-time permanent position. And so these are people who are looking to work for the Forest Service full-time, and they can start out as an intern to help get them there. As a heads up, this certificate that you get actually qualifies for any federal employment. So maybe you come and work for the Forest Service or for some other federal entity to get your 640 hours, and then you can take that certificate and apply for any federal work. Next slide, please. We also have the Resource Assistant Program. This is for recent graduates and new professionals who are looking to work in natural and cultural resources. So these people who are interested in these programs apply for it. They get a weekly stipend of $500 to $750 per week and $1,000 per month housing stipend. And this is really a training experience for people. So they come in and they do a lot of work that is in, you know, similar to what other people in the Forest Service do, but it's really for like hands-on learning for it. And then if you get with successful completion in 960 hours, the Resource Assistant Program, you get a 2-year direct hiring certificate with the Forest Service. So you can apply directly for positions that are available at the Forest Service. You're not guaranteed a full-time permanent job when you become a resource assistant, but this is a pathway to help get you there. Next slide, please. To qualify for the Resource Assistant Program, you need to have a bachelor's degree and have been out of school within 0 to 5 years. And just, you know, willing to work hard and learn and be a US citizen. That is a requirement there. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned a little bit about hiring authorities. So what a hiring authority is it something that either Congress or the president sign an executive order saying that this is how people can get hired for federal jobs. So what I just talked about was some more of the competitive ways, which means that anyone can apply for it, and people are like reviewed against each other for who is going to get the position. But there are ways to apply non-competitively as well. So for example, some people who were like veterans can qualify, people who are in the Peace Corps can qualify. And also one thing that may be of particular interest is Schedule A hires. Schedule A is for people who have a qualifying disability. They can apply non-competitively. So when you apply non-competitively, what it means is that you don't have to go through that competition process with other people. And the process can often be easier. So I'm going to talk a little bit about because if you apply competitively, you go through USA Jobs. And so you can also apply through USA Jobs non-competitively and just select that you are eligible for Schedule A hiring. But you can also reach out to the forest itself and let them know, hey, I can qualify for Schedule A hiring. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about how much you can expect to get paid when you first start out with the Forest Service. Most entry-level positions are GS3, 4s, or 5s. And they start out making about $30,000 to about $37,000 a year. General schedule is the way that a lot of federal jobs are paid, and it ranges from a GS1 to a GS15. And you'll also see a lot of jobs that are like, they have a built-in career ladder. So they might start at a GS4 and then work their way up to a GS7. A GS7, for example, makes about $47,000 a year. So a lot of these jobs, you start out at one pay and you can work your way up. And also because it is a federal job, there are lots and lots of opportunities for advancement as you make your way through. I frequently just Google general scale or general scheduled pay just so I can remember what each GS level makes. But I just wanted to kind of introduce you to this topic, because if you're going around USA Jobs and trying to figure out what the heck GS means, that is the pay scale, and you can Google it to see the pay. Next slide, please. So I keep talking about USA Jobs a lot. This is a really good location to find out about job openings that are happening. Like all of the Ottawa's jobs are listed on here, and so are they for all the Forest Service jobs and federal jobs across the country. And so if you go on and you create an account, you can go and look at the job duties of it. Like, hey, I'm interested in this position. What are the job duties? And read through it. Just as a heads up, sometimes they seem very vague and you might have questions. So if you can find somebody locally at the forest to talk to, that is encouraged. You can also let them know, hey, I qualify for Schedule A hiring at that point when you reach out to them. Next slide, please. On that same position, you'll also see all the job requirements, like what is required for you to apply. This is helpful just so you can say, hey, do I meet these qualifications or not? Yeah, next slide, please. So how the application process works. If you apply competitively, that means you apply for like an internship or for a resource assistant program or something that is open to the public to apply for. You send in your application, and we'll talk about resumes in a little bit. They're a little different in the federal system. And then the agency reviews it. So the applications are typically not reviewed locally at first. They are sent elsewhere. So we'll talk about it in a little bit. But spend lots of time on your resume, because you might have talked to somebody locally on the forest about it. You got a really good vibe about the job and you're like, yes, I want to apply for this position. But it's not that person locally who reviews it. The agency reviews it. And then the agency may conduct interviews that may be done locally, or it may be done elsewhere as well. And then the agency selects the best candidate. The applicant is given a tentative job offer, and then all the other applicants are notified at that time. This process can be time consuming, but it's worth it. I promise. Federal jobs and federal benefits are really worth it. I know when I applied, it took 5.5 months. So luckily I was still in my other job as I was going through the application process. So if you don't hear anything, just be patient and just know that the process may take a while. But like I said, totally worth it. Next slide, please. So the resume. Federal resumes are just different. I did not work in the federal entity. And so like when I was working on my resume for federal government, I'm like, what the heck? It is totally okay for your resume to be several pages long. I know like a traditional resume, they say keep it to a page. But when you're going through the job announcement, you know, really look at some of the language they use. Like say you used to work at McDonald's and you're applying for a recreation job. And the recreation job talks about handling cash. And so then when you go to your resume and you're looking, when you worked at McDonald's, mention that you ran the cash register and that you dealt with cash and counting it, and you know, that sort of thing. So use your experiences in your resume and kind of tailor it to what the job description is. Throw everything and the kitchen sink into your resume because it's not necessarily reviewed locally. It's reviewed by somebody else and they have to score it to make sure that you qualify based on all of your experiences. And just make sure you proofread it. I've read so many resumes. I was like, oh yeah, that's a typo. Oh yeah, that wasn't worded well. Just spend some time going through your resume, and it's totally okay. It's expected for your resume to be several pages long when you apply for the federal government. Okay, next slide, please. So, do you guys have any questions for me? If you guys have any specific questions afterwards, you can always email us at sm.fs.recruiting@usda.gov. And you can also look into USA Jobs for jobs that are available. On the Ottawa, we currently don't have any right now, correct, Joyce?
Any vacancies?
Yeah, for the public.
There are no vacancy announcements for the Ottawa on USA Jobs at this point. Although we do have vacancy, it takes time to get them outreached and put up on USA Jobs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Craig, did any questions come in for us?
Yes, I do have some questions, but Joyce, we'll start with one question I had about you sent out an outreach notice today about some positions. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about those. I'm going to be sending those out statewide to my contacts, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about those.
Okay, what I forwarded to you today, Craig, is it's called the Fire Hire, and those are all firefighting positions that will be on USA Jobs the end of August into early September. And Craig will be forwarding that out to his contacts. Some of those are like entry-level positions. And then, so there's not a lot of experience required for those. And then some of them are more well-seasoned opportunities to where they do have experience. I noticed there was like a bulldozer operator on there. There's helicopter crew members. There was just a whole list of them that will be advertised with a start date, I noticed, of March of 24. So you can see that is a 6-month process for those positions.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I'll be sharing those out sometime today. So thank you. So we've got a list of questions that came in from our participants today. One of them was about the age requirement for high school internships.
Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit. There are other opportunities for high school students, and that's called a YCC program. That's 8 weeks in the summer for high school students that are 15 to 18. And they basically work under other people to do resource work. They maybe go out and work in campgrounds. They may help with biological surveys. They they might go out in the woods for and get a taste of timber marking, just general things like that. And those are through the high school. We reach out to high schools like in February, and then they come on in mid-June and work for 8 weeks. So that's 15 to 18-year-olds.
Okay.
But the internships that Charlie mentioned, they have to be 16 years old to apply for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. There was another question that came up. I don't remember which field you were speaking about, Charlie, but it asked about a bachelor's degree in another field qualifying, kind of when you first started talking about the positions. So I'm going to open it up to more of you. Are there different degrees that are applicable to apply for a lot of the positions?
Definitely. So I mean, my degree is in public health and I do admin stuff. A lot of it just comes down to experience. Do you have a relevant experience in the field that you're looking at applying for? And it doesn't have to be like I said, if you worked at McDonald's and dealt with cash, that helps with applying for recreational jobs. Maybe you were a janitor in college, that can also help for certain positions, you know. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a timber degree to apply for timber positions.
Okay, thank you. There's a couple questions on the Schedule A hiring. One of the questions was about the preference, as you had mentioned that there was a box to click for Schedule A hiring, but that you could also send information directly. I know we've partnered together in the past, and I can always send those resumes directly to you. Is there a preference in what you want to see? Would you rather have someone follow the process through the non-compete on USA Jobs, or have them come directly from your partners?
Joyce,
It can go either way. Right now, we do have some, we call them frontliner positions open. They're customer service representatives, and I will be outreaching for those here within the next week or so, just to see what the interest is on those. And for the qualifications for those, you know, you have experience in customer service, handling cash, greeting the public, filing, mailroom duties, strong computer skills, those types of things for the front desk areas. But getting back to if someone has a four-year degree, say in communications or writing, and they are a Schedule A and they have experience, sometimes there are, we call it NEPA positions, which is National Environmental Protection Act, and they do a lot of writing. So depending upon the experience and background, the person could qualify for that. If you have a degree in biology, you may also qualify as a fisheries technician, for example. So if you have a degree in wildlife biology, you may also have the qualifications for that type of work. Or biological science, you could do, if you have a strong background in plants. We have biological technicians that deal primarily with plant surveys and that type of thing. So.
Okay, thank you very much. There was one other question on Schedule A opportunities still requiring a college degree, and most times we'll send candidates your way that meet the requirements for the jobs. But is there ever times where experience might substitute for the educational requirements?
Oh, definitely. This one I can answer, Joyce. So we have a lot of entry-level positions that have come up and will continue to come up. Like Joyce had mentioned, the frontliners. We have 3 or 4 frontliner positions that are open. You do not need a college degree. Experience, if you have, is it 6 months of experience, Joyce, for GS?
At least 6 months of experience, yes.
Okay, yeah. So if you have at least 6 months of relevant experience, that can work in lieu of a degree for a lot of GS4 positions.
Right.
Okay. There was another question about the other national forests in Michigan, other opportunities throughout the state. As I know that we work a lot about positions in the UP, but can you share a little bit about your connections with the other forests in the state and about their process?
Yeah, so everyone's process is the same. The Huron Manistee is in Lower Michigan, so that's over in the Manistee area and also on the east side of the state, kind of over by Alpena-ish area, kind of. And then in the Upper Peninsula, there's also the Hiawatha, which is kind of like St. Ignace area. It's kind of on the eastern part of the Upper Peninsula. It covers a wide area as well, so it's much bigger than just the St. Ignace area. And then we're located in the western Upper Peninsula, in like the Ironwood, Ontonagon, Houghton kind of area. And so yeah, similar process all the way across the board with how to apply. Just if you are able to make contact with the local forest, it would just obviously be a different person that you would contact.
Okay, thank you. Another question from our participants was about one of the positions that was mentioned about individuals 5 years post-bachelor's degree. It was talking about the 0 to 5 years of experience. And you talk a little bit about that. They called it the RA position.
Yep, the resource assistant position, exactly. So yeah, so if you left college within the last 5 years, you are qualified for it. We are looking at having, I can think of one resource assistant we're looking for admin related tasks, hopefully starting in February. Joyce, are there any other resource assistant positions?
There is one civil engineer resource assistant position on the Ottawa, also starting in February.
Okay. And so those are fantastic positions to get your foot in the door, because afterwards, if everything goes successfully and you get 960 hours, you can get a certificate so you can apply for other federal jobs all across the country. It's a really cool opportunity there. Craig, did that kind of answer what you were?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We had a couple questions on youth. One of them was about any suggestions you have for preparing our youth to work for the National Forest.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And so a lot of it is just getting people exposed to the Forest Service and what we have to offer. Because I know when I was a kid, I didn't think of working for the Forest Service. So if you live near a local Forest Service, see if there are any, like we have a conservation educator, and so she puts on various programs. See if there's any programs that you can take kids to. I know our Forest Service also likes to work to send employees into the classroom just to tell kids, this is what I do and this is how I got here. And that's super awesome, just to help expose people to it. And just communicating, like, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, have you thought about the Forest Service and just how wide, just how many opportunities there are here? It's pretty awesome.
Great.
Another thing too is to there are volunteer opportunities on the forest. So you would call any of our front desks and they would put you in touch with the right person who handles volunteers, and they could help you out. Sometimes we have a trail project. Sometimes you could volunteer in an office just to see if that's something you would be interested in. There, as a volunteer, there's certain security measures that we have to take. So you probably wouldn't be able to count cash or anything like that, but you would get a general flavor of what it's like to work in one of our offices. Yeah, you could go out and volunteer and help in the field, taking surveys, or, you just have to make sure you're dressed appropriately and have all, the right clothing and that type of thing. But that would be all gone over with you in the volunteer application process and who you would be working with.
Okay. And now, do both of you or others at the National Forest ever offer opportunities to do some informational interviews, just for people to reach out to learn more about the careers available?
So you're saying people are interested in positions and they're just looking to talk to somebody about to see how, oh yeah, they can definitely reach out to me. And I'm sure Joyce, I'm sure you would be willing to talk with people too. I don't want to volunteer you for things, but yeah, definitely reach out to me.
Okay.
Charlie.loper@usda.gov.
And people can reach out to me as well so that you don't get inundated with emails and I can send them on your way. I know in the past, we've talked about some of the positions that open up in the Upper Peninsula. There's occasionally some opportunities for housing to help get people started with relocating and moving up there. But someone had asked about the question of any assistance for any of the individuals for youth who might want to come up from outside the area to get involved in some of the programs.
Yeah. So we do have a bunkhouse in Waters Meet that people often stay at. Also, we have a lot of partners that hire people, and then those people work with the Forest Service. So, for example, with the Visitor Center, we had Great Lakes Climate Corps people there, and they were all college students. And Great Lakes Climate Corps was able to offer them housing. So there's different partnerships like that we do have, and they often have housing available. We've also worked with other entities across the whole forest to offer more opportunities for housing rather than just the bunkhouse. Joyce, anything else that I missed there?
Well, housing is always an issue because we do just have the one bunkhouse. Yeah, so that is a problem. But if someone is offered a job, like from, say, Southern Michigan to relocate up to to the Ottawa, for example, it depends upon, everything depends upon certain things, but there are times that we can offer a relocation incentive. But that would be in the job vacancy announcement that would say that.
Okay.
So, but some of these hiring events that are run through USA Jobs, now we just, the one I sent out a few weeks ago, their GS4s and 5 starting salaries, they were offering recruitment incentives for those jobs, and that's becoming more and more common. Recruitment incentives for people from outside the agency.
Okay, great. So one last question, and so I don't want to keep us too long, but can you tell us a little bit about, as a federal agency, about what your reasonable accommodation process looks like?
Yeah, so if people apply for a position and they would just apply and they know they need a reasonable accommodation, they would just apply like anybody else. And then we do have an entire department who just works with reasonable accommodations. And so if you get hired and you're like, okay, I need a reasonable accommodation, your supervisor would put you in contact with the person who does reasonable accommodations and work to make it work. It's pretty common. I have a couple of employees that have reasonable accommodations. That's pretty standard across the forest, and the whole process is pretty streamlined at this point. Joyce, anything I'm missing there?
I just wanted to let you know that our offices are handicap accessible, things like that. So if you need, for example, if a person needs a sit-stand desk where they can raise or lower their desk, that is easily accommodated. We do have assistive devices like for hearing, that can be accommodated. If someone happens to have a service dog, that we accommodate them. So, yeah, so we are very easy to work with for reasonable accommodation.
All right, great. Thank you very much, both of you, for the information you shared today. There might be a couple questions that we didn't get to that I'll follow up with you later so we can do a follow-up to our attendees today.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Keisha to finish us off today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. So I'm just going to ask our participants, don't go anywhere. We're almost done. We just have a few more things to take care of. So here's some information on the screen here to learn more information about the people who presented today. We've done our Q&A, but if you have more questions, please send those to either Nasha, Craig, or myself, and we will get those questions answered. Now I'm going to ask you to take out your cell phones, and you're going to turn on your camera and point it at the screen so you can complete a survey for us. And while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you to our guests from Potter Park Zoo and the Ottawa National Forest. You guys presented great information today, and thank you very much. For our participants, just a quick summary. This was an opportunity to learn about ways to help individuals get into conservation and preservation. Perhaps you're working with youth and they're interested in working with animals. We've come across barriers trying to make sure that our individuals have access to that. The information shared today gave us some very good alternatives how to get into that. Internships, volunteer, externships, different educational programs. So there are alternative ways to enter into this field. This event is recorded, so please feel free when we send the recording out to share this recording with individuals who are interested in getting into the field. Let me see, make sure I covered everything. I think I did. The only other thing I would like to say is just thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found the information to be helpful. And I'm going to check in with my colleagues. Do I need to cover anything else? Tyler? Craig? Nasha?
All good on my end. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again for our interpreters. We always appreciate you joining us. And once again for our presenters. Everyone have a great day and thank you again. Bye.